Catus Maximus here. This is not a big China ripping video. It's more of a video just ripping Crescent and their parent company Apex Tools. The reason is because for a while I've had this nice old American-made Crescent. The thing about Crescent wrenches is that they did invent this style of adjustable wrench, but that was early in the 1900s. Their patent ran out before World War II. These were just pretty good quality. These were the traditional American-made wrench that was basically as good as a Proto or a Snap-on back in the day, but were much more reasonably priced, and they had a decent finish. They moved the production to China, and that's what was puzzling, is because these are already a relatively low-cost item. I mean, the factory that produced the entire supply of these, you know, the production line for these wrenches was probably a dozen people or a couple dozen people to produce tens of thousands of wrenches if they need to make that many. So it was just a little bit disappointing that they moved it to China. It may look a little bit prettier, but it's actually much worse. If you see this third wrench over here, the crux of this story is the Harbor Freight Doyle's got them both beat. And I've reviewed a lot of Harbor Freight stuff, but I am not a big Harbor Freight fanboy. I just bought a bunch of their stuff. Basically, it was cheap, and a lot of it for YouTube videos, to be quite honest. But in this case, I'm going to have to recommend the Doyle, because it actually shames the old Crescent as well as the new one, even though this video is just about the Chinese one versus the American-made one. And the differences that really disappoint me on a low-cost item is, one, I did get this new in the packaging. This was on a Black Friday sale for really cheap. It was like $8. So I said, what the heck? Wider handle, more torque. Limited lifetime warranty. The deal with the Crescent wrenches is that if you broke them, like broke the jaw, you send them the wrench, they give you a new one. Now it's limited, and it's like, just an excuse to deny the warranty. They talk about wider handle. This handle, I don't need to bring out some calipers for you to see that the Chinese one is not as wide as the American-made one. What other special features does the Chinese one have? Well, it has this feature here where you can see this broaching is clearly well off center. It almost, and you can see this, the thickness difference, almost looks like the slots coming down through an angle. You can see this too, where there's quite a bit of wobble in the jaw there. Even if we open it up to a wider capacity, still it's actually even worse out here. I mean, that is a huge amount of play, so that's rather unfortunate. Another thing is that the screw here is not very good. They have on the back of this packaging here, they're talking about something better knurling, larger knurl, forged alloy steel. Well, the Doyle is chrome vanadium, and that's 6000 series, and I'm sure Crustalloy is this another 6000 series. But nonetheless, if we look closely at this screw versus the traditional one, which has really heavy buttresses, part of the reason they use the buttresses is, one, to give it just a little bit more strength in screw thread, so you actually have this big taper. The second one is, at least when you're opening it, when these get worn, have a lot of grit, the buttress kind of forces the jaw up and makes it a little bit looser. We can see that there is much tighter on the old American-made one. The broaching actually isn't perfect on the American-made one, but it's certainly quite a bit better than the broaching on this. The one thing I will give the more modern one is this, is it does appear that center webbing may be just a little bit thicker, but not by much. But overall, the body is just a little bit thinner, and that's just really disappointing, because that was the big deal of it. And to compare both of these to the Doyle here, we can actually see that the Doyle, compared to the Chinese one, the Doyle actually does have a pretty thick, heavy-duty screw. It's actually even larger than the old American-made one. So it's like, wow, Harbor Freight's got them beat. And then there are some other things about the Doyle. If we look at other small aspects of finishing on compared to the Crescents, the Doyle even has, they even made sure to grind that end piece so it doesn't look too funky. It's Taiwanese. And then, of course, the feather in the hat is this. And I can't believe I'm saying that about Harbor Freight, but even if we open this jaw all the way up, come on, very little play. And if we get down to more normal ranges, it's really pretty darn tight. So that's the deal. Crescent took a wrench that was American made, but already was a relatively budget tool, and moved its production overseas and cheapified it even worse, to where this thing seems like a better version of essentially a dollar store Chinese wrench. It's a $10 store Chinese wrench. And it's just kind of shameful what Crescent has done, because it was really kind of just, you know, insulting almost. Because you're like, well, this product isn't cheap enough, so we're going to move it to China. Basically, probably save a few $100,000 a year at most on production. You just can't really save that much by moving overseas. And then by doing that, what you've done is opened up avenues for like companies like Harbor Freight and this Doyle line, which now Taiwanese Doyle, which easily, you know, outshines these. I mean, this is a much more competitive product. Anyway, thanks for watching my little rant video here. I really appreciate everybody who's been watching and subscribing and commenting. And if you haven't subscribed, please do. Until next time, Catus Maximus out.